Every time I open my old guitar case, it's like time travel. I think of Dad playing Elvis records, Mom singing in the kitchen, going to guitar stores as a teenager, and dreaming of that shiny guitar hanging on the wall, the one I could never afford. But then I got it, and then 1,000 more dreams followed me for decades. But this isn't really about rock and roll. It's about growing up with something that sticks with you. We all need something to keep the motor running. I've spent more money on guitars and equipment than I'd like to admit, but it came with a huge bonus. I've made many cool musician friends because of it, awesome people I would have never known. I even dated a female guitarist in college that looked like Jennifer Batten. Oh yeah, I've got crazy stories. No matter what kind of music you like best, it's funny how hearing just one of your favorite songs changes everything. That's the magic I'm talking about. Let's go on a musical journey where you might see the person you used to be, or the dreams you still need to follow. At Cleveland, Ohio, there's a sign that says the birthplace of rock and roll. Right beside it is a huge museum, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but don't let the name fool you. Inside is a lot more than rock music. You'll find exhibits about Dolly Parton, Taylor Swift, and Whitney Houston. It's a little mind-bending, but if you love modern music, you'll definitely get a kick out of it. For a fact, it brought back many good memories from growing up. Start off by getting a map. The layout is a little confusing. There are multiple levels to explore. You have stairs, escalators, and elevators to choose from, totally handicap accessible. But if you're afraid of heights, use the elevators. If you have a problem with loud music, bring some earplugs or cotton to stick in your ears. The music is ripping loud. At the Roots of Rock and Roll section, you'll see John Lee Hooker's guitar. You'll see Albert Collins' Telecaster. He was an early electric blues master. Some say that's why they used a Telecaster in the movie Crossroads. And then there's Les Paul's electric guitar prototype, affectionately called the Clunker. Both a popular recording artist and inventor, he is most famous for inventing the Gibson Les Paul guitar. Ah man, look at this, Bill Haley's guitar. He performed some of rock and roll's earliest tunes, such as Rock Around the Clock and See You Later Alligator. If you stop to read everything, it will definitely take some time, likely an entire day, but we're just going to hit some highlights. My first exposure to rock and roll was Elvis. My dad was a huge fan, and we played his records all the time. The very last concert that Elvis ever played was at Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. I'm kind of surprised that Dad didn't go. Maybe it was sold out before he could even get a ticket. I can remember the day Elvis died in 1977, like it was yesterday. I got off the school bus and played a bunch of Elvis music. I clumsily tried to play guitar, which has continued for over 50 years. Still clumsily. If it wasn't for Dad loving Elvis, I might have been a bigger fan of jazz, or God forbid, K-pop. They also have Elvis's motorcycle, and it made me think of my Aunt Judy, who's been a fan for over 60 years. No matter how old it gets, rock and roll is the music of young people, and listening to it keeps us young, my aunt a prime example. The Hall of Fame didn't forget Wanda Jackson, that not only dated Elvis, but had some very big hits of her own, such as Let's Have a Party, Hard-Headed Woman, and Fujiyama Mama. Even to this day, she has a huge following in Japan. But I don't think any fan of rock and roll can see a red Gibson ES-355 and not think about Chuck Berry. Famous for songs like Johnny Be Good, Maybelline, Roll Over Beethoven, Rock and Roll Music, and School Days, just to name a few. He is considered the father of rock and roll. He was the inspiration for the scene in Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox. He definitely inspired a lot of rock and rollers that came after him. But my interest in rock music exploded when I first heard Eddie Van Halen play. It was like nothing I'd ever heard before, and I wanted to be just like him. The cool thing was that he didn't use expensive gear. He slapped together a factory second body, a spare neck, various other parts, and it sounded awesome. He's credited with many guitar innovations, ideas that led to the Floyd Rose tremolo, dipping guitar pickups in wax to prevent feedback, the Drop D device, the concept of the Superstrat, using a Fender-style body in humbucker pickups instead of single coils. And while he didn't invent it, he made finger tapping an art form. If you're a guitar nerd, it's right-handed hammer-ons. The 1980s also gave us Prince, that was not only an exceptional guitarist and composer, but played all the instruments on his first album. He loved the color purple and exotic designs. And here's a fun fact: even when he was on tour, he typically wrote one song every day, resulting in a vault of unreleased material. No matter what you think of him, that's an incredible work ethic. He definitely had talent, but put a ton of work into his craft to be successful. Michael Jackson's Jacket, about as 80s as it gets. Born in Indiana, just like me. His birthday was August 29th, just like me. But he did a little better than me. They also have several of his costumes. Tina Turner's dress. Man, does this ever bring back memories. My mom used to blow dry her hair upside down like Tina, put on my cool jacket, and sing What's Love Got to Do with It. That was funny stuff. You'll see a ton of costumes as you walk through the museum. You might see things from some of your favorite bands, such as Angus Young's schoolboy outfit from AC/DC. Or if you're from Australia, Akadaka. I can remember playing Dirty Deeds on my guitar over and over again in the garage. It wasn't great, but it was loud. There's a huge exhibit on the Beatles. Paul McCartney and John Lennon are considered the most successful songwriters in history. Band members Ringo Starr and George Harrison also had successful solo careers. My brother and I only had one Beatles album, but we played it over and over. There's a huge section on the Rolling Stones. While I've never been a huge fan, I have to respect that they've been performing since 1962. That's 64 years and crazy. This brings back memories. Blondie's One Way or Another was one of the first records I ever bought. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Who could forget the song I Love Rock and Roll? And I bet you know the next verse. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I remember being on the school bus when this song came on. Everyone lost their minds. I remember when Def Leppard was huge, with Rock of Ages and Pyromania. It's the only band in the world with a one-armed drummer. After Rick Allen's car accident, in which he lost an arm, his bandmates refused to go on without him. I think all of us wish we had friends like that. Seemingly at complete random, an Elton John artifact, one of the biggest pop stars from the 1970s forward. And Alice Cooper, known for decades as a scary shock rock performer, He's now a level headed, sober, evangelical Christian. It's funny what time does to all of us. But for a rock and roll guitar player, the Jimi Hendrix display was a big deal. I wanted to see what he actually played, to see how they were different from mine. Except for a few modifications later on, pretty much everything was stock. He was left-handed and played normal guitars upside down. Some say that was the secret to his unique sound. The pickups were upside down, but the strings were standard tuning, with the bass E on the top. However, he did experiment with string gauges. But that wasn't the secret to the magic of his tone. It's all in the fingers. Fellow performer Janis Joplin is nearby. Both she and Jimmy died at 27 years old. Oddly, the Rolling Stones' Brian Jones and Jim Morrison of The Doors, also 27. This started the infamous 27 Club legend. Later on, Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse, also 27 years old. But it actually goes all the way back to legendary blues guitarist Robert Johnson, who died under mysterious circumstances at age 27. But it's not really a mysterious curse. The entertainment industry is a tough business with lots of pressure. If you cope with drugs and alcohol, it's a short road ahead. We can all learn from that. In the early days of music videos, Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane was pretty trippy. But we watched it anyway on Friday night videos for the sheer fact that it was trippy. And we all talked about it in school on Monday. One of my girlfriends was a big fan of U2. But I was all Van Halen all the time. I knew it would never work. And looky here, Seymour, Indiana's John Mellencamp. I remember when he started out as John Cougar, as he liked the name of the car. His aunt was a teacher at my school. My cousin used to party with him and his buddies. He still has a place south of Bloomington at Lake Monroe. After he was a big star, he'd drive his motorcycle over to my wife's aunt and uncle's place to smoke and talk in the garage. I never made it big, but think I too would still live in Indiana. I have to be honest, I know a lot of bands and a lot of music, but I didn't know all of these. I did notice Bo Diddley's crazy looking guitar, kind of hard to miss. Lauryn Hill was one singer that I thought should have went bigger than she did. She had a singing role in the movie Sister Act, and did an awesome remake of Killing Me Softly, and then she disappeared. Honestly though, it's pretty common in the music industry. Even if you manage to get a good break, it may still be a very short ride. But wait, there's more. A very popular section is where they have guitars and amps for you to mess around. Spoiler alert, you really aren't playing through a big stack. It's a tiny box inside the shell. My brother was a big fan of Soul Train. We watched it just to see people dance in crazy outfits. And then there's Pink Floyd's The Wall, literally. I mean, it's a wall with the words to the wall on a wall. Bon Jovi's Motorcycle. I have to admit I like the early stuff. And if you wanted to be somebody at the guitar store, you had to learn Dead or Alive on an acoustic. And Mr. Bad to the Bone, George Thorogood's jacket and guitar. Again, lots of mix and matching. I mean, right next to it is a John Prine exhibit. Taylor Swift even. More Joan Jett, different floor. Let's mix in a little Bob Dylan, one of the most copied songwriters of the 20th century. Great songs, but a voice that proves we all have a shot. And even Whitney Houston. The museum is less about rock and roll and more about pop music. This brings back a memory, one of Steve Vai's crazy guitars. When I was a kid, I wanted one of the Ibanez guitars, but they were way too expensive. Pretty much nothing's changed since I was a kid. My first exposure to Steve was when he acted in Crossroads as the Devil's guitar player. Absolutely one of the coolest rock and roll segments of all time. They have Freddie Mercury's wrestling boots from Queen, and only one item from Led Zeppelin, John Paul Jones' bass. No matter how popular the act is or was, the museum can only display what it's given. When I was there, they had a special exhibit room about Bon Jovi. Check out the gals grooving to the music. Yep, that's why young guys wanted to be rock stars. If this doesn't bring back 1990s memories, nothing will. I remember my cousin's friend, who bought a Richie Sambora guitar. We all thought it was the coolest thing ever. I can't remember how long he had to work at the grocery store just to buy it, but I think it was a long time. Their stage clothes were cool back then, kind of cringy now. Aw man, the acoustic guitar that Richie Sambora played dead or alive more times than you can imagine. The music is loud, it's very crowded, and easy to miss things. I walked right by James Hetfield's guitar from Metallica and did a double take. It's an interesting place, but when you walk outside, a part of you says, "What did I just see?" It was kinda rock and roll, but something else. However, it was a solid dose of nostalgia, the music I heard growing up in Indiana, making me think of the rock and roll places of my youth. It was time for a visit to my hometown. When I was growing up, this was a house filled with music. And all these years later, I'm still making music because of what started here. Dad taught himself guitar, keyboards, and was a great singer. My mother, the preacher's daughter, listened to the radio every day and not only knew hundreds of songs, but was also a great singer. One of my funniest memories was hearing her sing Van Halen's Jump while doing the dishes. At an early age, our grandparents bought us instruments at Christmas, and Dad encouraged us to play. We played record after record, everything from Hank Williams Jr. to Elvis and classical music. I wrote my first song when I was 10 years old. I look back fondly to my first electric guitar. Dad had passed away at 46 years old, and Mom wanted to give me something else to focus on. It was a Montgomery Ward special with pickups glued to the pickguard. It was pretty cheap, but I didn't care. I could play loud. Mom helped me buy my first cool guitar and would buy others at garage sales. She was the coolest mom in the entire world. Rock and roll was more than my hobby. It was my identity and safe place. And I have my mom to thank for it. It's a gift that's lasted for decades, and it kept me out of trouble. When I was a kid in Greenwood, I hung out at a small place called Guitar Country, marveling at all the guitars I couldn't afford. It's been gone a long time, but I look back fondly that they let me be there and play stuff at all. I wasn't very good at that time, but they were nice to me anyway. One day I walked into the store and found a guitar I couldn't live without. Beautiful red flame maple. I spent every dime I had to get it. I was completely broke, but wasn't sorry. It was easier to play than the others, and I learned a lot from it. I grew up with that guitar. Though I've changed the neck, electronics, and hardware, I still have it over 40 years later. And every time I pick it up, I think of the nice people at that store. Further north across County Line Road was Guitars and More, now a Thai place. Bought my first rack effect and 12-string there. Behind that place was the County Line Mall and a music store called IRC Music, short for Indiana Recording Company. It too is gone, but I remember them helping me set up my guitar to play better, as I didn't have a clue how. Because of how I was treated back then, I forgive people for thinking they know everything, or hardly knowing anything at all. Just like when I was a kid, walking through the guitar store doors. Lots of great life lessons. But even now, despite having everything I need to make music, I still visit guitar stores anyway. It's as much to see what's new and better as it is to relive the times of my youth, and some of them will blow your mind. One of the coolest guitar stores is Maxwell's at Jeffersonville, Indiana. The music starts before you even go inside. Plenty here to be excited about. Elvis is at the front door. If you look up, the ceiling has all kinds of records, but that's just an appetizer. You can tell from the get-go, this is not your plain vanilla guitar store, probably the only one with crystal chandeliers. Most of us grew up playing on a couch or bed, and you can do that same thing here. Want a sucker? Get a free one from the toilet. You should know that most rock guitarists have a silly sense of humor. And no matter if they have a 1959 Les Paul at home, they're still shopping. I've lost count of how much money I've spent on gear, but I know it's in the thousands. But it wasn't drugs or $16,000 Pokemon cards, so there's that. The largest music store I've ever visited was Sweetwater at Anderson, Indiana. It's the largest online music retailer in the United States. Place is like a mall for musicians. Even a place to try out different guitar effects pedals. Don't be shy, it's there to have fun. Huge guitar room and all kinds of amps. Box up the Soldano, I'm taking it home. Man oh man, it's incredible today, but I would have went out of my mind as a teenager. If I saw a younger version of myself playing a guitar that was too expensive but was wonderful to play, I'd say, get it. Get a job at Burger King. Use your birthday money. Don't let it go. If you connect with an instrument, it's like food for the soul. At Sweetwater, you'll find a plethora of microphone and recording choices. Everything you need to be your absolute best. Including that $16,000 Yamaha Baby Grand Piano that I always wanted. They're selling dreams in there, and most of us are still buying. There have been many famous rock musicians from Indiana, and that's always inspired me. It's given all of us a hope to keep trying. Bobby Helms, that wrote Jingle Bell Rock and My Special Angel, was born near Bloomington. He's buried at Martinsville. Lonnie Mack, famous as a pioneer in blues rock, was born at West Harrison, Indiana, and was buried at Aurora. Shannon Hoon of the band Blind Melon, and famous for the song No Rain, was born at Lafayette. Sadly, he died of a drug overdose before the album hit it big. He's buried at his hometown in Dayton, Indiana. David Lee Roth of Van Halen was born at Bloomington, Indiana. Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses was born at Lafayette, Indiana, as was his bandmate Izzy Stradlin. Mick Mars of Motley Crue was born at Terre Haute. Henry Lee Summer, that had the hit I Wish I Had a Girl, was born at Brazil, Indiana. and John Mellencamp, of course, born at Seymour, Indiana. The town celebrates him with a huge mural. But the chances of making it big are actually pretty small. But that doesn't stop us from buying that better guitar, better amp, better microphone, or better computer to record our work. If you truly love music, it's just part of you. I mean, look at Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Rod Stewart, Buddy Guy, Angus Young, Rob Halford. All in their 70s and 80s and can hardly think about stopping. Les Paul, famous inventor of the Les Paul guitar, was still playing gigs in his 90s. It's like cellist Pablo Casals said. He was once asked why he was still practicing in his 90s, and he simply said, "I think I'm making progress." Time moves on, but it stands still while you're playing. And like magic, you're again that teenage kid with 6 strings and a dream. No one lasts forever. We don't have that much time. We're all gonna pass away somewhere down the line. But have I been good enough, or have I done too wrong? Will someone remember me after I'm gone? Will someone remember me after I'm gone? People built the Great Wall, they built the pyramids. I did the best I could, it is what it is. Will the love I left behind continue to go on? Will someone remember me after I'm gone? Will anyone remember me after I'm gone? Maybe that's the secret to life, knowing that nothing is forever, but playing as if it is.